Logan Paul is a celebrity with a capital C. I see him kind of like a male version of the Kardashians. Everyone knows him, so he makes a lot of money. And the more money he has, the bigger reaches he builds. He takes upon almost every activity that could bring him profit. He started as a YouTuber. Nevertheless, he also made money as an actor, podcaster. He also gets huge income for advertising different products. Of course, having this kind of money resources, he tried his hand as an entrepreneur or even an investor in the world of cryptocurrencies. He was one of the people who lost fortunes on the NFT images advertised by different online money-making coaches. Our little sport community also associates him with boxing matches. Despite the objectively high level for a celebrity, he is one of those people whose salaries are elevated mainly by his crazy recognizability. When it comes to fighting, his brother Jake is much better. Logan, on the other hand, attracts audiences and money. Whatever he touches, it turns into gold. He can make money on his failures. And even after losing money on NFTs, thanks to the uproar on social media at the time, he was able to recoup some losses as well. His career gained momentum when he started publishing pretty satirical content on the now-defunct Vine website. Although he has been present on YouTube since 2013, it wasn't until 2015 when he opened the Logan Paul channel, where he currently is active. The channel was one of the main driving forces behind his career. He has been recording podcasts since 2018 when the first podcast episode was published, which the American runs together with his friends, called Impulsive. The same year, he also started fighting for money, which in today's world is almost always a financial bullseye. Today, his reaches are big enough for him to be able to attract the world's most famous names in the world of sport to promote his brand of isotonic drinks, such as Erling Haaland, for example. Unfortunately, he is not doing as well in boxing as his brother. First, he fought with another YouTuber, KSI, who challenged Logan to a fight on boxing terms. The fight took place using the amateur boxing formula, which means that they both fought wearing helmets at the time. The confrontation took place in Manchester, and it ended with a majority draw. Two judges gave a score of 57-57, while the third announced a score of 58-57 in favor of KSI. None of the guys was satisfied with the score, which is why they decided to repeat their brawl a year later. However, they actually fought using the professional formula. The revenge took place over 6 rounds, and this time, by a split decision of the judges, KSI won. Two judges gave scores of 57-54 and 56-55 for the British, and one 56-55 in favor of Logan Paul. It is so far Logan's only fight displayed on the BoxRec website. Later on, in 2021, the time came for a fight with Floyd Mayweather himself, which, for obvious reasons, couldn't end well for Logan. A lot of people saw a setup in this because Floyd is a boxing legend, whereas Logan, to put it mildly, falls behind a lot. There was also a gap between the competitors in terms of physical conditions. Paul is 6'2", while Mayweather is 5'8". Paul was also nearly 44 pounds heavier. The competition itself had no score either. As a result, the fight was pretty boring, with a few flare-ups from Mayweather, who watched out not to kill Logan. After 8 rounds, a draw was declared. Lack of successes combined with limited possibilities of making money on fights in a formula he didn't find suitable convinced him to change the discipline. He turned from a boxer into a WWE player, and his physique exploded. At the moment, his record was 2-2, whereas WWE is a show where this is of a secondary importance. What matters the most here is his skills in performing effective techniques, and in this case, his level is praised most of the time. His physical condition got even more improved, and as of now, he still maintains a weight of above 200 pounds while being very cut. Being athletic helps fight such heavy competitors as Kevin Owens, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, Joe Anoa'i, or freaking Rollins. His current shape, on the other hand, is likely the peak of what we've in this fighting celebrity. He has never been as jacked as he is now. Does anyone still believe that Logan Paul is a natural? Of course, that's what he personally claims. Let me remind you of the situation from a year ago when Andrew Tate made a comment on Logan using doping. According to Tate, Logan supposedly used steroids before his fights. Let me quote his remark from back then. "All my life, I've been accused of taking steroids just because I'm well built, and for some reason, my genetics make it a little easier for me to build shape. But I have never taken steroids and I never will. and I believe that people are starting to argue with me just because I know how to make a big show. They don't really think so, so they just raise a discussion. At the time, Logan looked like this. It was obviously an above-average physique with a low fat and interesting dimensions. I suspect that this was the period that the information of him weighing 202 pounds were coming from. He had very well-developed upper arms and slightly stood out with the lower ones, especially the thighs. Today, his shape is very sharp and rich in details. He improved every strong element of his physique, which means that shoulders, chest, as well as impressive biceps and triceps are even bigger and more refined today. Very thick cables reach all the way to shoulder muscles, forming forks on their way. It is at least a few kilos of very dry mass, which he built in a very short time, all while losing some body fat. When entering WWE, in my view, he was around 12% the whole time, sometimes going lower. Now, he's certainly not carrying more than 10% body fat in his composition. He may even be around 8%, which can be seen on his face, for example. In the pictures with his clothes on, his eyes seem very deeply set, and his lines seem even sharper. It's hard for me to estimate how many pounds of muscle Logan could have gained. For instance, because the lighting and poses in his best shots are very favorable. Still, these are very significant figures. Even before his latest explosion of shape, he presented a physique that would be unattainable to many of us in a natural way, and it would certainly require good genes, whole years of sacrifices, being systematic and knowledgeable. It is obvious that at this level, potential growths that could be expected are only marginal. Meanwhile, right before an important fight, Logan is growing, literally as if on a very solid cycle. On the 14th of October, he is going to return to boxing with a very demanding competitor. One who would make a more suitable opponent for Jake than for Logan with his weaker boxing skills. It is Dillon Danis, a famous contestant of the MMA Bellator organization, which is not tested by USADA in terms of doping. The atmosphere between the competitors is very tense, for example, due to the recent, very personal attacks by Danis on Paul and his fiancee. Danis is trying to portray the model as a person with a very frivolous approach to romantic relationships, and at the same time, one that takes advantage of her incredible beauty for monetary gain, and sadly, in an ethically dubious way. He published her private photos with at least a dozen different guys, with Adam Levine, LeBron James, Leonardo DiCaprio, but also with less popular businessmen of older age. He also uploaded a video online where Paul's fiancée decides to confess to such things as, for example, requests to be, and here I quote, filled with a big thick sausage, declarations of being ready to take any of them, and complaints of being desperate due to the longest in her life period of abstinence from contacts with men. Of course, this was not a video material dedicated to Logan Paul. Was it a painful blow to the heart and a damage to the male pride that contributed to Logan's physique reaching its peak so far? Or maybe the best is yet to come, because after all, there's still almost a month and a half until the fight. I believe that a quote-unquote natural with such brilliant genetics like Logan Paul, additionally motivated by a situation that would be very difficult for every man, is able to squeeze a little more out of his physique. I am also personally counting on this because we haven't seen such good shape in the world of social media celebrities in quite some time. To save the honor of a woman with so many qualities, I think that every gentleman would try to turn himself into a beast.